Welcome back to Wine Time Mysteries, where true crime and the unexplained collide. I'm Ashley, and I'll be your host for today's episode, joined by the impeccable Joey Voodoo. And today we'll be uncovering the chilling case of Stephanie Lazarus, a decorated LAPD detective whose double life unravelled when she was linked to a cold case murder over 2 decades old. We will explore the tangled web of jealousy, deception, and abuse of power that led to murder. If you enjoy listening to true crime stories and tales that send shivers down your spine, subscribe, rate, and review us on your favourite podcast platform. Your support helps keep the show going and brings you more stories that challenge reality. Be sure to check out our links at linktree/Winetime Mysteries. Today, I wanted to start a little different and lead with the gorgeous Sherry Rasmussen, the woman who lost her life in this tragic case. Sherry Rasmussen was born 7th of February 1957 in Walla Walla, Washington, USA.
That sounds like an Australian name.
It does, doesn't it? I was like, sure we're not in Australia. She was raised in a loving family and had 2 sisters. Sherry excelled academically and socially from a young age. She was described as a very kind, gentle, compassionate, hardworking, and caring person. She also had such a beautiful smile. I'm sorry, but I was looking at photos of her and I was just like, just that smile is just those ones that would light you up. After graduating from university, she pursued a career in nursing, to which she quickly advanced in eventually becoming the director of critical care nursing at Glendale Adventist Medical Center in California. It was said that her passion for healthcare and her leadership skills earned her respect and admiration within her field. Sherry would meet John Rutan in 1984. He was a mechanical engineer, graduated from UCLA, and the two quickly developed a strong connection that would turn into a serious commitment. They would marry in November 1985.
Oh, they married before I was born.
The couple had a bright future ahead of them. There was one thing or person that seemed to create a bit of tension in their relationship, and that was John's ex, Stephanie Lazarus.
Gasp. What a twisted little triangle.
Was it ever? You see, John and Stephanie dated on and off during their time at UCLA. Their relationship was casual and not long-term, with John not seeing it as a serious relationship. Unfortunately for Stephanie, because she seems the type that would hold on to anything.
Well, that sounds like a little bit of foreshadowing. She had much stronger feelings for John, and when they separated, she had difficulty moving on. After leaving UCLA, Stephanie joined the LAPD as a uniformed officer and eventually rose through the ranks to become a respected detective. Sherry was aware that John had a former partner named Stephanie, and she actually expressed some concerns about her and her inability to move on from her relationship with John. Gasp.
Yeah, Stephanie would contact John and even show up unannounced at his workplace, and this made Sherry very uncomfortable, obviously. Stephanie knew John was now married, but her obsession with him continued. And that is that is the most scariest thing, having someone who is in law enforcement now be obsessive with you. And a detective at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, because they have insider knowledge of how to do things, if they were so to do such thing. That was a riddle. But they would have the ability to do that or cover up, or perhaps they would even have friends that are in service that could help them do or get away with those bad things.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are some, or a fair few dirty cops out there, but back then as well, you could get away with a lot more of actually stalking someone or finding out where they are, what they do, compared to now where
everything's logged now.
Yeah, I think it's logged now where you wouldn't be able to do that.
No, because they would see, because that's a part of their quality control is that you're not abusing that system, surely.
Yeah. but it would have easily been abused back then.
You could exploit it back then because they probably wouldn't assume you would have done that.
Exactly. Scary. On February 24th, 1986, so don't forget they only just got married the previous year, Sherry had decided to skip work so that she could prepare for a management class she was teaching. John left for work and everything seemed like it would be a normal day. Later that evening, when John returned home, he was confronted with something no one could ever imagine. Sherry's body was found laying on the living room floor, beaten and shot multiple times. She was only 29 years old.
Can you imagine what it would be like to actually come home to your house, assuming to see your loved one, to find them deceased, like in a bad way?
Yeah, like not only deceased, but like you said, like horrifically. I cannot even imagine. The crime scene was chaotic and suggested a violent struggle had taken place. Furniture was overturned, broken objects littered throughout, personal items scattered everywhere, and there was signs of forced entry. The autopsy revealed that Sherry had facial trauma and was in the state of rigor mortis by the time officers and ambulance arrived at the scene at around 6 p.m. She was declared deceased at 6:12 p.m.
How long does it take for the body to enter the early stages of rigor mortis?
Rigor mortis is approximately 2 hours after death, and this is via the web searches, but it completes around 6 to 8 hours after death.
And when they say complete, what does that mean?
I think like the complete stage of rigor mortis. So like it starts to appear, but then I guess you're in full...
So within 2 hours, your muscles start stiffening, your joints start stiffening, and by 6 hours, you're locked.
Yeah. So if she was already found in the state of rigor mortis, we're going to say, roughly 6 hours.
Yeah, definitely more than 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The report stated that she had 3 bullet-type wounds to the chest, with one of them appearing to be a contact wound due to the fragments of her robe embedded into the wound.
Oh, so the gun was at her chest when it was shot.
Mm-hmm.
Close proximity.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I guess also they'd be able to figure that out because of like gunpowder residue too. That would probably be there as well, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. But the fact that parts of her robe were like embedded into it, that's just, that's next level. Another bullet-type wound was noted under her right eye with no indication of an exit wound. She had multiple lacerations around that eye as well. I looked at full, coroner report to see what...
No, thank you.
Yeah, what went on. Abrasions were found around the right eye, on the left side of her throat, and another on her left cheek. Her septum was noted to be torn and bruised, and a bite mark was found on the left forearm. There was also multiple reddish-purple contusions around the head as well. The initial investigation heavily focused on a burglary theory. Items such as her BMW were stolen and later found abandoned. A few other small personal items were also missing, and a rather unusual item was taken, and that was her marriage certificate.
That seems like a very strange thing for someone to take.
Yeah, and what's stranger is there was cash left behind and jewellery. Unfortunately, with the LAPD focusing on a botched robbery, this meant that a lot of critical evidence was overlooked, and a series of missteps and tunnel vision would delay the case being solved. Blood samples and fingerprints were not fully analysed, and leads suggesting a more personal attack were not pursued properly.
Of course.
Yeah, why would they?
Mm-hmm.
Friends and family did not buy the burglary theory, as there were plenty of items, as I said before, left behind that were worth money. And they also knew that Sherry had reported unsettling encounters with a female LAPD officer prior to her death.
I wonder who that officer would have been.
I have no idea. It's not like anyone was stalking John or, showing up and...
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they turned up to her place of work and just made a big old scene. I just don't know.
We just don't know. Don't know at all. Due to the times, police were waiting for advancements in the forensic science area, as technology obviously was not as good as it is today. The case would go cold and no movement would be made for more than 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
In 2009, 23 years after Sherry was horrifically murdered, the LAPD Cold Case Unit decided to re-examine the evidence from Sherry's murder. They focused on the DNA technology that was now available, and one of those being the bite mark on Sherry's arm revealed a rather significant lead.
Oh.
Because, just a bite mark. The DNA belonged to a female, which ruled out the original theory of a break and enter as...
Why? Women can do anything.
Can we? As it was assumed a male had committed the crime. So not to
Yeah.
stereotype at all.
But they assumed a male did it. It doesn't mean a female still couldn't have gone and broken in and done stuff.
Exactly. But just like it shows right from the start how, like, straight away just thinking male.
That's something a man would
what?
do.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it is something that probably men, hashtag not all, do more so than women.
Women.
You know?
Yeah. It is statistically. Officers now decided to look into people who might have had a motive to harm Sherry, and it didn't take long for their attention to focus on Stephanie Lazarus, a former LAPD detective and ex-girlfriend of John.
Le gasp.
So shocked by that. During the initial investigation, although Stephanie did not work Sherry's case, she did work in the same department that was responsible for the case, which likely influenced how the investigation was handled. Officers obtained a DNA sample from Stephanie covertly by retrieving a discarded cup that contained her saliva.
Look, you have to protect all of your assets.
I feel like that's always the way, hey? Like typical American films and stuff like that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
always a cup. Or
And it's like, because then you wonder, like, when they give them a drink of whatever, like in the interrogation room and stuff, are they taking that for a DNA sample later? Can they do that legally? Does the person have to, like, consent to giving their DNA? I don't know.
Who will
So
know?
many questions.
The DNA sample matched that of the bite mark on Sherry's arm and provided enough evidence to make an arrest. In June 2009, Stephanie Lazarus was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Sherry Rasmussen.
Good.
About time. Stephanie's arrest sent shockwaves through the LAPD and the community. After her arrest, Stephanie was held without bail and her trial began in early 2012. It was then that Stephanie's obsession, resentment, and jealousy were shown at trial. So I just wanted to go over a few weird things that I found interesting that Stephanie had done, where it's like, I can't believe it took this long, but I'm just going to go through a couple of things. So one of those things was she showed up at the hospital that Sherry worked at and had a confrontation with her. So shocked by that. Journals were found at her house. An entry from 1985 stated that she saw John's car and put a note on it. She watched it for an hour and a half and checked up on it a few times.
The note.
Yeah, to make sure he'd gotten the note. Stalker.
I'm sorry, but no dick is good enough for that.
No, that's just crazy. Another entry stated she showed up to John's house and Sherry was there. I like that she journaled all of this evidence.
I like that too, but also like, girl, why?
Yeah, move on. Move on. When she found out that John was getting married, she described herself as very depressed and that she didn't feel like working. She was too stressed out about John. And one entry stated, I've had a real hard time concentrating these days, so I called up and said I didn't feel well and could I have a TO, time off. They gave it to me. In August 1985, she wrote a letter to John's mother stating that she was truly in love with John and the past year had really torn her up. She said, I wish it hadn't ended the way it did, and I don't think I'll ever understand John's decision. He didn't think it was serious to begin with. You loopy woman.
That is bonkers though, isn't it?
Writing a letter to your ex's mother.
But also, I'm talking about like, yes, that. 100% that.
That.
But like, way to misread a situation.
Yeah. It'd be very interesting, not that it matters because it doesn't excuse what she has done, but it would be interesting to find out a bit more of the relationship on his side. Like, was it literally like dates and stuff or just hook up or, like how did she create this little story in her head?
But how intimate did it get?
Yeah.
Like maybe they did have sex, but maybe it was more of a physical relationship
Yeah.
than anything else. I don't know if he would have I don't think he was the type to lead her on.
That's what I was thinking as well. And, I understand that might be hard for someone if you're like obsessed with them, you know, that after not even dating you, they then get married or get engaged not that long after. But
I struggle to understand obsession, just in general. Like, I have never, like, even with like fun activities, I have never found something that I love so much that I would like hurt or jeopardize someone else to do.
kill for, yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not that I want to get it, but I don't understand.
Just cannot comprehend that level of obsession, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie was off duty the day that Sherry was murdered, and she was also off the following 3 days afterwards. Not sus at all.
Yeah, I wonder what happened.
She did not try to contact John after Sherry's death. However, they ran into one another while on vacation in Hawaii with other people. So it just so happens that they were...
No.
Yeah. John saw her 2 or 3 times after that, and they had sexual relations, but never started a relationship up again.
Okay.
No.
Oh, imagine figuring that out after the fact, though. Like, the woman that murdered your wife,
The love of your life.
you slept with after the fact.
And that coming up in court as well. The prosecution's case was strong in that they had DNA evidence, a clear motive with witnesses testifying that Stephanie had a hard time letting go of her relationship with John. They emphasised her knowledge of law enforcement procedures and highlighted her proximity to the investigation and the LAPD's initial mishandling of leads. The defence, of course, challenged the evidence, stating that it could have been contaminated or mishandled due to the decades-long delay in solving the case.
Well, I mean, that's a factoid.
Yeah.
However,
We're
pretty sure.
evidence states
Yeah.
they pushed for the botched burglary and had character witnesses testify Stephanie's reputation as a dedicated officer and that she would not be capable of such a violent crime.
No, not at all.
On March 8th, 2012, the jury found Stephanie Lazarus guilty of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole. So jumping to November 2023, a panel of parole commissioners found that Stephanie Lazarus, now 64, was suitable for release.
No.
Yeah, right? However, the decision deserves additional scrutiny. I cannot believe
Suitable.
such...
Could it not be suitable for release as in she has served enough time to be considered for release? But there's just some things they need to kind of figure out to see whether or not that is the best option. Like, is old mate married again? Is there a risk to her stalking him or coming and finding his new wife and then
doing it again.
annexing her?
Yeah, I didn't have a look to see if he married again. Questions, so many questions to be answered. I just, I don't know, to me it's like, is it just because she's an officer and because she's a female? Like, that would not, I just don't feel that happening for a male.
That doesn't make sense to me though too, because if you've sworn an oath to serve and protect, normally the consequences for you breaking that oath are more severe.
Yeah, I can't believe it just even was an option. Thankfully, after emotional testimonies from Sherry's family, the California Board of Parole hearing rescinded their decision on October 2nd, 2024.
Happy birthday, me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like 22 days before my birthday, but that's a birthday month.
Yeah,
So.
now you know. The murder of Sherry is not only unsettling, but also shows a betrayal of trust when someone in law enforcement can commit such a heinous crime. Law enforcement officers are entrusted with upholding justice and protecting the public. They symbolise safety and order. When one of their own breaks this trust, especially in such a calculated and personal manner, it not only devastates those directly affected, but also lowers the public's confidence in the system. This case raised serious questions about police bias and the mishandling of evidence. It became a stark example of how systematic issues within law enforcement can delay justice, particularly when one of their own is involved. Fortunately, Stephanie Lazarus remains incarcerated. However, she still maintains her innocence.
I think it's a little bit past that, doll.
I think we're just past that. No, thank you.
I think it's like a few decades past that.
We're not believing you, Stephanie. Next time on Wine Time Mysteries, Joey delves into the puzzling case of Brian Walsh, a man whose seemingly ordinary life unravels after his wife's sudden disappearance. As investigators dig deeper, unexpected twists and hidden truths come to light, leaving us to question how much we really know about the people closest to us. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember, justice has no expiration date. Until next time, stay safe and question everything. Sorry, I have to go.
Why?
I just remembered I promised my cats that I'd FaceTime them.
Oh, well, bye.
Sherry Rasmussen was born 7th of February. was born. Here we go, I've got some outtakes for later. You're a wizard, ballet. Rootin' tootin'. The couple had a bright future ahead them. Head them. Crazy.
Maybe she's crazy. Maybe she's crazy.